Good evening, everybody. Got a full night tonight. Just finished up our Committee of the Whole on accessory dwelling units. Thank you, councilors, for putting in these hours. The time is 7:03. Today is Monday, March 10th. And we are going to call this regular meeting of the Springfield City Council to order. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Kern? Absent. Councillor Allen?
Present.
Present. Councillor Govan?
Present.
Present. Councillor Walsh? Absent. Councillor Edwards?
Present.
Present. Councillor Davila?
Present.
Present. Councillor Brown?
Present.
Present. Councillor Whitfield?
Present.
Present. Councillor Delgado?
Present.
Present. Councillor Santinello? Absent. Councillor Click Bruce?
Present.
Present. Councillor Perez?
Present.
Present. Councillor Fenton?
Present. Will the council and our guests please rise for a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you recognize the councilor in seat number 1, please?
Councillor Curran? Present.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 1, Madam. Well, do we have any reports of committee this evening? Councilor Delgado.
Just a quick one. The working group on digital equity met last week, and I'm pleased to know that we received a final report. And I want to make sure I shout out, I don't think he's in here, but he was here, Mr. Howard, who's always on our back on the work that we're doing there. And so this report, which was finalized by PEC, will be given to the mayor and his administration for further review, and hoping to take next steps into applying for some grants there. So.
Good. Thank you, Councilor Delgado. There's an online participant, DV54154. Can you please identify yourself?
Yes, Don Bonner with Verizon.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, sir?
Don Bonner with Verizon.
Okay, thank you. Committee, Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met today. Normally meets at 5:30, but because of this committee of the whole that we just held, it was held at 1 o'clock today. Appreciate people who came. It was an awkward time, kind of unusual time. Councilor Walsh was there, Councilor Perez. From the school department, we had Bob St. Lawrence. Department heads we had were Roy Goodman and Kathy Bono. We had a lot to talk about, and we didn't actually take a formal vote at it, but after the meeting, Kateri and I were both there. We agreed that she and I informally agreed that everything was suitable for us. And I apologize to Councilor Delgado in changing the time of it to accommodate the committee of the whole. Unfortunately, it was scheduled at a time that he can't make. So if we have to do this again, we'll remember that. Thank you, Councilor Delgado.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown, committee reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maintenance and Development met with Eversource to speak about the raising increase of the utilities. I believe all the councilors were present. We had Eversource and Chris Signoli They informed the residents and the city body that they were working to lower the prices. I believe that they did do something as far as the 10%, which really wasn't in the long run. I think they putting it back later on in March. So basically, we're still, I think, gonna have to continue to meet a little bit more about the situation, but it was a good meeting. Eversource did say they had different programs where they were gonna adjust the actual income requirements to be eligible for the different programs. So, I believe on their webpage, people can look at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Brown. Counselor Walsh?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'm just wanted to be recognized.
Oh, will the clerk please recognize the counselor in seat number 4?
Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Thank you. Counselor Davila on committee reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. The General Government Committee met twice, first on February 24th, and present in that meeting was Councilor Allen, Councilor Walsh, Councilor Delgado, Solicitor Steve Bonaconti, and Director Mahoney. We discussed the skill-based ordinance that Councilor Delgado is looking to put forward to this wise and humble body. And we discussed the particulars of the ordinance. And in a nutshell, the ordinance talks about taking into consideration people's work experience when they have a formal lack of education, but they do make it out by their experience. There were some concerns that were brought up, which I believe Dr. Mahoney is going to be looking into to see how we can get the ordinance passed. And we will be meeting in the near future on that again. We also met again the following day on February 25th. Present was Councilor Walsh, Councilor Click Bruce, Councilor Govan, Councilor Allen, and Councilor Whitfield. And we had a very, an hour and a half discussion on the street lighting, Mr. President, and Eversource was also present to talk about the condition of the street lighting. The street lighting in the city of Springfield is an issue, sir. We have many lights out throughout the city. We talked about the current system in which basically it falls upon the resident to report when the light is out. Well, obviously that system is not working. We also talked about the amount of dedicated crews that they have into fixing the lights. We found out that the crews, I believe they hire contractors, so we now have 2 crews. In the old days, we used to have 3 or 4. But right now we have 1 from Eversource and 1 contractor, and they also share throughout the region. So they not only have Springfield, but they also have the surrounding cities and towns, which makes it, in my opinion, an impossible job to do. I did request from Director Signoli a quarterly report, which I look forward to have the first draft in the next couple of days, as to the amount of work hours that is spent in Springfield, specifically working with the street lights. I also asked for how many, a total account of how many lights are out throughout the city. Eversource tried telling us that there was only 68 light poles out. I did not buy that at all. And they did say that there are 68 lights they're aware of. So there's a disconnect big time in the city with Eversource and the street lights. We also discussed the decorative light briefly, which is a separate issue, which I will be having a committee meeting in the general government. So that's my 2 reports for today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Davila. Any other committee reports? Okay. I have a committee report. Committee of the Whole met earlier today. In attendance were Councilors Allen, Govan, Walsh, Davila, Brown, Whitfield, Delgado, Santinello, Crick Bruce, Perez, and myself. And that meeting was really productive, extensive discussion and participation from about 8 different department heads. I think we'll be getting a follow-up memo and possible next steps from Councilor Allen in the coming weeks. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the committee reports.
On acceptance of the reports, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen. Yes. Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
yes,
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Committee reports are accepted. Madam Clerk, did we recognize the counselor in seat number 12 yet?
We have not.
Okay, please recognize her.
In seat number 12, Counselor Perez did, yes, she is here and
So, but I'm just saying, did I get her for
Yes, you did.
attendance? Oh,
You
okay,
did.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, item number 1, Madam Clerk.
item 1 is for Verizon Maple Street.
No, the revenue and expenditure report.
Oh, I don't have it on my agenda. Oh, yeah, I'm missing it from my January revenue versus expenditure report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lonergan?
Good evening, councilors. The January revenue and expenditure report is submitted to you. It represents roughly 58% of the fiscal year. Currently, we've collected $588 million in revenue, or 61.7% of the budget, and expenditures are going along at 61%. There's nothing that's standing out right now to cause concern. I may change that later on, but right now we seem to be okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lonergan. Any questions on the report? Councilor Govan?
Not on the report, but if I may ask a question regarding the potential for future issues in light of what's happening in the country and in Washington, D.C. Are we having any plans for that, if you know of any?
We are.
Because I've been hearing the
Yeah.
R word.
I've heard that word too. We're hoping that word is just that, a word, and that doesn't actually happen. The finance team has met and discussed things with formal plan. I wouldn't say is in place yet per se. We're waiting to see what happens with Friday's vote on the continuing the budget to pay the government. We should have a better idea at that point, and then we'll have more concrete ideas on how to do things.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Any other councilors? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the report.
On acceptance of the report, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen. Yes. Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
yes,
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila. Away, Counselor Brown. Yes. Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce.
No, yes, I'm here. I'm in attendance.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you recognize the counselor in seat number 10?
Counselor Santinello,
Present.
present. And yes, Counselor Click
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Report is accepted. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's try to take 2 through 7 together. They're all Eversource and Verizon petitions unless anybody objects. Okay, so we will take them one by one. Item number 2, Madam Clerk. Verizon.
Item 2 is Maple Street, was continued from last meeting.
Okay, is there anyone here from Verizon to speak on this issue? Mr. Bonner? Mr. Bonner? Anyone here from Verizon to speak on this issue?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Hello,
Hi, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine now, yes.
Excellent, okay. Yes, I had met with Hector Velez, the city engineer, in the field with the DPW team a couple months back now. And we met to discuss this underground, it's about 109 feet that needs to go in to support the property at 193. And all the questions were answered on site, and it passed in the field. I don't know if Hector's there or not, but he might be able to speak to it more from the city's perspective.
Yes, Mr. Velez is here. Any questions from the council on this petition? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call a roll on approval of the petition.
On approval of the petition, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
yes,
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila. Away, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Petition is approved. Item number 3, Madam Clerk.
Item 3 is an Eversource petition for Westford Circle.
Okay, Mr. Velez.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Westford is a petition from Eversource Gas. They're gonna replace a section on Upper Hill neighborhood. They're gonna replace Westford Avenue from cast iron to plastic pipe is around 2,000 feet from Northampton Avenue to Norfolk Street.
Questions from the council on this? Councilor Brown. Focus, can you help us out here a little bit? It says his mic is on, but we can't hear him.
Hello.
All right, he's going to use Councilor Delgado's for now.
Okay. Basically, I believe when dealing with these particular issues with Eversource, when they're going through this infrastructure, they're considering profit, net, and loss. Unfortunately, with the profit end, because this is going to be, we're paying for this, correct? When they're doing their numbers from my last meeting, when we're just okaying a lot of this stuff without knowing how is it going to reflect on the actual consumer. I believe the days of just stamping it and not putting it in a committee, like so say like finance or economic development or in our committees to see, I want to know the numbers, okay? Are you going to build this infrastructure and then now all the infrastructure you do know is coming to us. We're going to pay for it, okay? And how they've been divvying up, okay? Divvying up the profit, net, and loss. Okay, they're divvying up, okay, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna reconstruct this, and then now we're gonna charge the customers this amount of money for doing it, and then we're gonna take this profit and we're gonna take a large amount of this profit and give it to us. See, I think right now we should negotiate what is the percentage that the actual customer is going to pay for all this construction. How much? You know, how much is it going to cost us? We want to know the bottom line also, and I believe as a council, instead of just stamping it and saying, okay, Eversource, go and build it. It cost you $1 million to build it, and then you make $20 million, and now you give it. You know, it's just not working. So I would really like to slow down a lot of this and put it in committees where now we can now go through how they're divvying up their profit to themselves and what they're giving to the consumers as far as this infrastructure stuff, because we're paying for it. So I would like to pause all of it and put it in committees. And then now let us see as far as the numbers. I think it's irresponsible, just based on the last meeting that I had with them, It's irresponsible now to sit there and think that they calculated what this cost is gonna reflect to the actual residents of Springfield. Their numbers don't add up to our numbers. So I would like to put all of this stuff in committee, and they have to show us the numbers, because this reflects our consumers, our constituents and their bills. So I look to everything on Eversource. I think we should put it in either finance, economic development, and we should figure out what is this gonna cost us? And if it's gonna cost us a lot and you're gonna make a profit on it, how is that gonna help us? I don't believe that from this point on, we should do it like we did it before. I believe we should fine tune them and see exactly what it's gonna cost us and how it's gonna profit us, because they're doing a horrible job at it. So I move to put all of it in committees.
Okay, so Councilor Brown has made a motion to put items 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in committee. They would go to the Maintenance and Development Committee. That's under the jurisdiction of your committee.
I would like it to go under my committee, but I'd also like either economic development or finance to actually, because it does take two different committees as far as being able to find. I want to go through the line items. I want to see what they're actually doing.
Okay, motion to committee, seconded by Councilor Curran. It would go, we'll have it a joint committee of Maintenance and Development and Economic Development. Councilor Curran.
Just to follow up on Councilor Brown's comments and his leadership on this issue the last couple of weeks, I think he makes a lot of valid points. Our constituents are paying 25% extra on their utility bills. I think as a courtesy and efficiency here in the council, we've kind of just simply voted without asking much more input on these easements. I don't even believe a representative of Eversource is here tonight in the chambers to speak on them. So I do think Council Brown's points are well taken. And there's other issues, such as when we repave a road at St. James Avenue, Eversource, as soon as we repave a road, comes right in there and puts in all their new pipelines, and it tears up all the road that we just paved. There's a lack of communication with that utility. And there's a lack of transparency, I feel, with that utility. And I think our constituents are feeling it. So I concur with Councilor Brown. I think we need to slow down these easements, and when Eversource comes before the council, I think it's a great motion, and I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councilor Govan?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I was in attendance at the Maintenance and Development meeting when we had the discussion with Eversource, and prior to that, I have been reached out by many constituents asking about Eversource's prices and why the delivery charge is almost twice as much as the supply charge. And I had the same question. I have solar on my house, so I don't usually get a bill. Usually it's zero. Solar, but when I do get a bill, I notice the delivery charge is a lot more than the supply charge. And the gas, the same thing for the gas company, because Eversource controls the gas company. So I agree with this motion, and I agree that we need to slow down the process by which we approve these things without having Eversource's input, because our constituents need to know where this money is going and why the delivery charges are so high. They're complaining, right? They said, we don't mind paying for the supply. What their problem is the delivery, right? Amazon has free delivery. Why can't Eversource have free delivery? Thank you, Mr. Stephen. So that's my point. I agree with that motion, and I will be in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Brown was talking, I just came to my mind that perhaps we have been taken for granted by Eversource for too long. And so there's issues out there, whether it's the rate for utilities, which is more complex than it appears to be, and the condition of our streetlights, which it's dismal. We're having issues. So that's what came to mind. That's what came to mind. Perhaps we're being taken for granted, which I hope is not the case. I hope I'm wrong. I don't see a problem moving this to committee. I see significant of this are actually in my neighborhood. Commonwealth Avenue, Sumner Avenue, they're going to be putting conduits. And so when do you intend, if I may, to the president, when do you intend to put in, having this meeting, sir?
Councilor Brown, when will you have the meeting?
Me and Councilor Curran, I know we were speaking about a possible project that we want to work with the city. So we'll collaborate sometime this week, and we'll come up with the date, and I'll inform the council about it. Next.
2 weeks or so, okay. Yeah, I have no objection sending to this. It might be necessary to do so. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a question. I agree with holding Eversource feet to the fire, but these petitions, I think I should ask Hector, do the petitions come from our constituents or do they come from Eversource?
Petitions are coming from Eversource.
Oh, well, then that makes a difference, because I would be concerned about holding up something that might impact our constituents.
I didn't say it won't necessarily impact them. I just said who it's coming from. It's coming from Eversource.
Right. But did they receive a request from a constituent to do it? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. They're not here to answer that question.
Okay. All right. Well, that needs to be answered too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Perez?
Thank you. And I concur with my colleague Walsh. We need to strategize also when these developments are taking place so the constituents could know. So I think I'm in full support and being part of the Maintenance Development Committee so we could ask all these questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Any other councilors? Motion's been made to the Maintenance and Development and Economic Development Committees. It was seconded. Okay, seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Right here.
Oh,
right here.
sorry. Sorry, Councilor Santinello. It's hard, if you don't push the button to raise your hand and show the yellow icon, it's hard for
I
me
don't
to.
know where the button is, so I don't even try.
I understand. It's just hard for me to see you.
That. Okay, no problem.
It's under.
I just want to. Oh, thank you. I just want to remind the councilors that on the city website, Mayor Sarno said that there's a meeting coming up with Eversource at the Ray Jordan Center to show Eversource is going to show us how to lower our bills. So I think as councilors, we should go to that meeting and find out what the secret is.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Okay, motion made by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Curran. Madam Clerk, roll call on the motion, please.
On the motion to send items 2 through 7 to committee, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Items 2 through 7 referred to committee. Okay. Item 8, 9, and 10 are below our threshold, so Madam Clerk, please call those and we'll go to a vote.
Item 8 is FY-LSTA Explore Citizenship Corner Grant, no match required, in the amount of $4,000. Item 9 is an FY25 Shine Earmark Grant, no match required, in the amount of $54,000. And item 10 is a City Start Grant, no match required, in the amount of $100,000.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On acceptance, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Grants are approved. Item number 11.
Item 11 is an EA Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant in the
Okay.
amount of $103,780.
This one is 3,000 over our threshold. So we get to hear from Ms. Quagliato Sullivan.
Good evening. Tina Quagliato Sullivan. This is a grant from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. The state has changed their process for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program and are requiring municipalities to undergo a more extensive and updated planning and community engagement process. So this grant would fund that process, and this process will be required for the city to apply for implementation funding down the road, which is the bigger pot of funding that is available under this program. The grant, the timing is intentional, and it would be paired with the planned update of the Climate Action and Resilience Plan that is included within the $20 million EPA grant that the city was awarded. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the council on the grant? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On acceptance, Counselor Kern?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
I did have a question. Couldn't get my hand up quick enough. I guess me and Counselor Santinello was having the same issue, but I'm gonna say yes, and then I'll call him in. I'll call Tina.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Grant is approved. Item number 12.
Item 12 is a PEG Access and Cable Related Fund FY '25,
Okay,
Quarter 3.
Ms. Buono?
Good evening. This is our quarterly payment from Comcast. It is our franchise fees. It is received by the city, and then we then give these funds to Focus Springfield.
Questions from the council? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval, Counselor Kern? Yes. Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Funds well spent, yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Order is approved. Item number 13.
Item 13 is the bills of prior year for the amount of $484.
Ms. Buono?
Thank you. This is a prior year bill from the police department for $484 from Springfield Tire and Auto. The department needs council approval to pay a prior year bill with current year money. Every so often, a bill does slip through the cracks, and we do come in front of you a couple times a year to do this. So I'll need your approval to pay with this funding from their current year budget.
Okay, any questions from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Approval, Counselor Kern?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello? Counselor Santinello? Oh, wait,
Yes.
Yes, Counselor
Yes.
Click. Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Order is approved. Item number 14.
Item 14 is collective bargaining agreement ratification for the Springfield Public Health Nurses.
Attorney Mahoney?
Good evening, Councilors. Bill Mahoney, Director of HR and Labor Relations. I'm pleased to report we have two collective bargaining agreements with the Public Health Nurses Association. They cover the period of July 1st, 2024 to June 30th of 2028. It's a one-year contract followed by a three-year contract. First year, it's $1 an hour increase. In the second, third, and fourth years, it's 2% each year. We expanded the number of days to file a grievance from 5 days to 10 days. We added the military leave ordinance language that the council had approved. We got that into the collective bargaining agreement. We have expanded the flexibility for the Commissioner of Health and Human Services to use outside agencies and part-time non-bargaining staff to supplement the workforce if she feels it's needed. It's a little bit of I explained in the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, it's a little bit unusual in that we have, at the time we were negotiating this contract, we had one employee in the bargaining unit, and now we have no employees in the bargaining unit. But nevertheless, we do have a ratified agreement with them, and that's why it's in front of you tonight.
Thank you, Attorney Mahoney. Any comments or questions from the council on the CBA? Councilor Govan? And Councilor Santinello?
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Mahoney, you said we have no employees in the bargaining unit?
Not at the present time, no.
So does that mean that we have, I guess those are vacancies?
They are vacancies, yes. And we are actively recruiting.
And those are nurses?
Public health nurses.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Santinello?
Yeah, this is on the 2%, 2%.
It's $1 an hour in year one, and then 2%, 2%, 2%.
Okay, so you're saying that if there's insufficient funds, that Mayor Sarno will come back before the council to make up the difference, correct?
There shouldn't be any insufficient funds, I don't believe, but I think it's going to be covered in the Health and Human Services budget.
But I think that that's in the report here, saying that if there's insufficient funds, we may see something down the road to fill that insufficiency.
I'm not aware of any insufficiency. In fact, the position's been vacant now for a couple of months, so I would imagine there's funds certainly to cover the retroactive piece of this, which is a very small amount of money. I don't think we were going to have any shortage of funds in the account if it was funded in the FY25 budget.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Councilor Curran?
Just two questions, Mr. Mahoney. How many employees does this, Springfield employees, does this cover? And is there anyone here tonight to speak for the public health nurses?
There are no employees in the group now. There was one when we began negotiations. There's been one for a couple of years now. When I got here 16 years ago or so, there were 4 employees in the bargaining unit. And through retirements and attrition, it's gotten down to this point.
So none whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Could you expand upon that?
we had one, and she left.
So how for our edification, for my edification, how does that work? So we have a union that we're negotiating with. There are no employees in that union.
Well, there were at the time we were negotiating.
Okay.
And then she ratified. They told us, they said, the tentative agreement that you've reached with us at the bargaining table has been ratified. We said, great. Said, we'll bring it to the city council for the city council to ratify it. And in the interim, she resigned.
And who would be that? She would be the union steward. What's the title?
She's the union.
The union.
So she had union counsel she had outside counsel that represented her in the negotiations. So now it's just, as you can imagine, just kind of a very odd situation in that he doesn't represent anybody at this point in this group.
So for our edification there, those 4 employees when we were fully staffed, what do they cover? They covered what?
Public health nurses. They would do, for instance, the flu vaccines, the flu clinics, COVID. They were active in the COVID vaccination efforts.
In the senior centers and...
They would go to the senior centers, do the TB outreach, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, obviously this is very unique. We're
voting on a contract in which there's no employees. Number two, it's a very important role, obviously, as we come out of the pandemic and COVID, and we're in the middle of flu season. Number three, perhaps this contract, maybe if we ratify it, it's a reason that we're not attracting public health nurses. So I would, what is the harm if there's no employees asking for this to go to committee and so that the city council can get a little bit more research? We're not jeopardizing anyone's position, am I correct?
So you're not jeopardizing anyone's position. There are some flexibilities that we built into this, which I think would be helpful to Health and Human Services. For instance, they can now recruit part-time non-bargaining nurses, and we think that may be an avenue for us to provide additional services because, you know, if someone's full-time at one of the hospitals and they want to come work for a couple shifts a week for us, that's great. We can use them rather than putting them on full-time.
I think it'd be helpful to hear from Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris on this and how we could craft a contract that would attract employees for this important role. So I'd like to make a motion, send this to committee.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Curran, seconded by Counselor Davila. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes, my hand was up before the motion, but it still pertains to the motion. Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to ask what the current salary is for the nurse right now.
Bill, your mic, Bill.
Sorry. As proposed in this contract, with the bachelor's degree, it'd be about $71,300, thereabouts.
And so, just from like past history memory, a lot of times the commissioner comes and asks for waivers for this position because she can't find anyone locally. And I believe that the salary is just way too low. And even with a $1 increase, that's not enough. Like traveling nurses, they're over 6 figures right now and things like that. And so I think we really need to look at adjusting that salary a bit higher to attract more candidates because now we're suffering. We have no nurses. Like that is not a good look for us. It doesn't make sense. And I think $1 just isn't enough. And I don't think we'll be attracting people to those 4 positions. How many open positions are there?
I don't know how many are actually budgeted. I don't have the answer to that. I would say that we did look at the salaries that are being offered in our neighboring communities for public health nurses, and we're right where we should be as far as that $1 goes. I do agree with you that traveling nurses make an awful lot more money than what we pay for this service. And I would want to let the council know, I think on behalf of Commissioner Carlton-Harris, that we do have nursing that's being done. We're using some of the school nurses on an overtime basis to fill in at this point, so we're providing the services still.
Oh, great. I was just like, well, we don't have the nurses. Off you go to the emergency room to wait for 6 hours. I wasn't sure what was being done there, so it's good to know that. But I still think that we should really look at salary for public health nurses, and I'm going to agree with sending it to committee.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill, I'm still scratching my head here. So we have one nurse in that position. You began negotiating with her, who is the union, on this contract, correct?
Yes.
And then she left.
After we had reached a tentative agreement and she ratified, then she left.
Okay, so now, in terms of once we hire another nurse, which I hope it's relatively quick, that person will be bound by this contract, correct?
If we were to hire a nurse and the city council ratified this agreement, yes, they would be bound by the terms of that contract.
And how long is this agreement for, Bill?
It'll take us through June 30th of 2028.
28. And you say you don't know how many positions are budgeted?
I'm not certain how many they have budgeted.
Okay, because I'm very curious myself. I hope that we have budgeted more than one because it's a big city to only have one nurse.
I think they had 2, and we do have a nurse supervisor that we did hire. So we have a nurse supervisor that's providing services in addition to the school nurses that we are bringing on a part-time basis. as well.
Now, that nurse, assuming we only have one nurse that comes in, she may or may not want to, if assuming for whatever reason we don't ratify this, she may decide, the future person, that she doesn't want to be part of the union, correct?
She wouldn't have to be, right. So someone could come in and say they'll be a member of the bargaining unit, but they don't want to be a member of the union. That's the same for every person that works for us in a unionized environment.
So even if we do ratify this, which is going to bind that person in salary-wise, at least on working conditions, through 28, she may decide I want to be in the union, but not part of the
She could
board.
also, if she wanted to file a petition to decertify the union, she could do that. if that was
Correct,
what you
which
wanted
is
to.
much longer. It's not done overnight, decertifying a union, of course. You need to go to the National Relation Board, it's a process.
Well, it's through the state, so it's.
Well,
it's-
to the powers to be, yeah. Yeah.
You'd get it done within about 6 months.
So, Bill, thank you for doing your due diligence. It's a little awkward coming up here, I think, saying it's only one person and then there's nobody there. So I give you credit for that, Bill. I give you credit for that. Mr. President, I'm tending right now to agree with Councilor Curran. We should send this to committee. I am particularly very concerned as to what we may bind that person by contract with this, if we ratify this today. Councilor Whitfield brought up the issue of salary. That's a very good point. I'm also concerned with the working conditions. What may work for one person may not work for other. And seeing that right now it appears only one person, we should give that person the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not opposed to sending this to a committee to further explore any ramifications that this may cause. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Allen?
Thanks, Mr. President. This came up in the Finance Committee meeting, and we talked about it there. And my concern was similar to everybody's here until I asked the question about, so are there nursing services we're not providing because we don't have anybody? And Bill said that there were provisions made where they're borrowing nurses from other parts of city government, school nurses or something. So nobody was going, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, Bill, but that there was no nursing services that were not being provided. They were just being provided by other public health nurses from the school department, et cetera. So I'm not sure I said that right, Bill, but.
You did.
So I just wanted to point that out.
And we have that full-time nursing supervisor on our staff at HHS as well.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just curious as far as the police. Do the police, their union, do they have nurses part of their union?
No.
Because as far as, I know when we first got on, there was a severe incident that happened over there in the holding cells. And it's always odd to me why there isn't an actual nurse assigned in the actual police force, in the police department. Is that, would that be something they would join their union, or is it a city nurses? Because that's a demographic that instantly would probably need a nurse. There's people who go in there that's injured, that might overdose, that might, there was a severe incident where there was an individual who lost their life. What do we do as far as the nursing with in the police force, in the holding cells down there?
Counsel, I'm not privy to anything as far as any nursing services. I know that they do use EMS if there's a problem in the holding cells. They'll call for AMR to come in and respond immediately. I can't, and of course, the officers are all trained in first aid and CPR, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely would want this to go to committee and also start thinking about somehow if it's their union or the city's union. There's already been an incident where we dropped the ball out over there in the holding cell. So I think we should have someone on staff and not just calling EMT when there's a severe emergency. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Any other councilors? Motion properly made and seconded to refer this matter to committee. Would go to the Health and Human Services Committee, chaired by Counselor Santinello. Okay, seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to committee.
On the motion to committee, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
No.
No, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello? Counselor
Yes.
Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Item is referred to the Health and Human Services Committee. Okay, next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 15 is an order authorizing a contract over 3 years for lease purchase of school department computers.
Okay, anyone here to speak on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And good evening, counselors. My name is Bob St. Lawrence, Chief Information Officer for Springfield Public Schools. And this is an order for authorizing a contract over 3 years. The Springfield Public Schools is requesting that the city award a 4-year lease purchase agreement to Hewlett Packard Financial Services Company for lease purchase financing for laptop computers for students and staff. A 4-year term supports the implementation of student and staff computer replacement policies that were adopted by the Springfield School Committee in December 2013. That policy ensures replacement of laptop computers every 4 years. Entering a 4-year lease purchase agreement spreads the cost of the equipment out over its useful life. It provides budget stability by scheduling annual costs over the 4 years, supports the sustainability of school technology initiatives by committing to technology investments over time. And finally, it enables Springfield Public Schools to retain that technology at the end of the lease term at no additional cost. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions and would appreciate your support on this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. St. Lawrence. Questions from the council? Councilor Delgado, then Councilor Santinello.
I don't know if I missed it, but how many computers do you get with that? That was
Yes, I have we are estimating it will be roughly 6,000 laptops for students and about 1,200 laptops for staff.
Got it. And then what do we do with the old laptops that you're not using anymore?
Yeah, we're doing several things with that. We have one thing we're trying to do is extend the useful life of those laptops for areas where students maybe need repairs. So we maybe keep those 4-year laptops and try to extend them into a 5th and 6th year where we can. Where they exceed that particular age, we would go into a recycling program with our vendors.
And who are the vendors? I'm just curious.
The vendors that we're currently using are Wally Computer.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Santinello.
On that 4-year period, is there a buyout option at the end of that, or do we turn the computers back in?
Yeah, so we retain those devices at the end of the lease and we own them.
Okay,
So
why
the
didn't
budget-
we try to stretch it? Why didn't we try to stretch it out to 5 years?
We basically came up with the 4-year policy as it fits nicely with the transition and matriculation of the students through the elementary, the middle school, and the high school.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. What is the total cost of the contract?
The contract will be about, we are budgeting, and we just submitted this in our budget request to the superintendent of schools, will be about 1.2 annually. Total, it is roughly 4.5 million.
Okay, so 4.5 million altogether?
Over the 4 years, correct. 1.2, again, our budget estimates, 1.2 annually.
Annually, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Couple of questions for you. So it's 1.2 annually, 4.5 over 4 years. And is that for 6,000 laptops? Is that what I heard you say? Or
Yes, it will be estimate number of 6,000 laptops for students and 1,200 laptops for staff.
Oh, 1,200 laptops for staffs. Okay, that makes a big difference. Okay.
About 1/4 of the staff fleet would be refreshed annually, as we do for the students, refreshing 1/4 of the fleet annually.
And I just feel that we do this every year, correct? I feel like for the
This
last.
program, this program has been a showcase. This is really what put Springfield Public Schools in the position to do the remote learning during COVID. So we're very proud of that. And yes, we've been doing this for several years, and obviously we're looking, to position the digital learning element kind of in that post-COVID piece as well. But yes, we've been doing this for several years. I think this may be the 11th iteration.
Right. And so I don't have an answer for this, but this is what's on my mind. It seems to me that I know we have to approve this contract, but you come every year, and it seems like this should be, I don't want to say automatic, but something that that could be streamlined. And also, what's the possibility of bulk buying more to get a lower price point? Because we're buying computers every year. I just wonder, I know that the technology changes, but I wonder if we get a laptop, do you think that will save us money if we buy more upfront to get a lower price point?
Yeah, I think we do get some bulk pricing options. But again, one of the things that's, I think an advantage to the way that we have it positioned is when we have some variability. So for example, when there was potentially difficult to get the supplies during COVID and maybe those prices had increased, we're only buying a subset of those. This year, we're also, looking at variability with respect to the tariffs. And so again, so there definitely is some opportunities to do some bulk buying. We think we have a good amount that gets us a competitive price annually. We certainly can go up, but it does give us some flexibility when some unknowns come up from year to year.
It's just that every year we approve you for millions of dollars in laptops. It's just like, I don't know. I wonder, we should start looking to see how we can lower this price.
Sure.
Because, 1.2, I mean, it's a necessary evil to approve, but we need to save every penny for the future as well.
Yeah, I would also just make one quick comment around the supportability of refreshing the total fleet in bulk. But I do take your point and would definitely take that back under consideration at a larger number and what savings might be incurred annually if we were to look at that.
I think because the police department recently did something, and they're going to be saving a lot of money, a couple of $1 million with what they did. So, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Santinello.
You started to say Walsh.
Raising his hand, but not the yellow. So Councilor Santinello.
Just to follow up on the lease with Wally Computer and Hewlett Packard. If the computers go down or need maintenance, is that a separate contract with Wally Computer to come in and fix those?
So we have an in-house staff that handles the majority of the repairs. Obviously, there's a warranty component, but yes, and then anything above and beyond that, there may be circumstances where we need services beyond those two things.
And that would be a separate budget.
That would be a separate budget, yes.
How much have you allocated for that?
It's going to vary. I mean, there's like a parts budget that we have. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but there's a parts budget. But again, we handle the vast majority with our staff in-house. And again, the warranty would cover those intermediate ones that would have to go out. And then again, I think the parts budget would cover essentially the pieces, anything above and beyond that.
So my question would be to you, why wouldn't you have negotiated with Hewlett Packard direct?
So we negotiate the price. We're buying off a state contract. I think that's also one other important thing. So we want to leverage those economies of scale on the state contracts. And so we negotiate with the vendors on the state contract. And then we are using Hewlett Packard Financial Services as the vehicle to kind of do the financing over the 4-year period.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just curious. When the students change grades, they get different computers. Now, when they get new computers, is there anything new in them? Do they also upgrade the technology with the computer?
Yes,
Or they say this?
Yeah, that's one of the wonderful things about the program is that every 4 years, we are putting the most up-to-date technology in our students' hands.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to ask. Because there are obviously every year changes.
Absolutely. So our latest ones will have, the latest processing and memory, and really providing that student a full-featured laptop, which will have, again, every 4 years, the most up-to-date technology features that you're mentioning.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that every student in the schools gets a computer. Can they take them home?
So we have so our policy is designed for take home. The short answer is yes. To the degree every student is taking them home every single day, that may vary from school to school and based on the level of the student.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, any other counselors? Counselor Brown, then Counselor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President. As far as when these computers are no longer in use, can you donate them? Are you able to donate them?
Yeah, I think this is an area that I'm looking into more closely. We believe that there is a way to do that, but I think that there are some tax considerations that we have to explore and verify before we can go forward with something like that. But it is something I'm looking at.
Well, I know as far as there is a 501c3, so I know that they're certified. It's called Springfield Community with Erica Andrews. They actually take the old laptops and computers and they refurbish them and donate them free to the community. They just donated to the National Association of Black Veterans. So they give them away. I know that they're doing something this year where they're actually teaching kids how to build a gaming system, and they're giving it to them for free. So I know that they do have a 501c3 set up, and if you can donate, I know they do fix them and give them back into the community.
Excellent. Can I have the name of the group again?
It's called Springfield Community, and it's Erica Andrews.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Brown. Counselor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. And that was going to be one of my questions as well, and more so like, some of the local community centers donating some of those laptops to those resources so our students can have around-the-clock access to computer literacy. Also, just a quick question, may I missed it, but what was the rationale for getting $12,000 for staff and then $6,000 for students?
I hope I didn't speak on that, but $6,000 for students and $1,200 for staff.
Thank you. All right, I misread that. Okay, thank you so much, Council President.
Thank you, Counselor Click Bruce. Counselor Delgado.
I just want to add to what my colleagues both said and what I was trying to figure out earlier when I asked the questions of what do we do with them afterwards is also, we're talking about our students, but I'm also thinking more about our seniors and finding ways that we can use these. Doing the work on the digital equity working group, we've learned a lot about the needs from our senior community as well in terms of educating them and how to, one, use the internet, also not to fall into pitfalls. So I was wondering if there's another capacity for some of our senior centers to be able to put those computers to good use.
Well, I'm very interested in exploring that, and I absolutely will have that as a follow-up.
Thank you very much. Counselor Perez.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado, for bringing that across. I know that New York Citizen Council has a computer lab, and it's located at 101 Lowell Street, and it's for the elders in that building. That's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Perez. Counselor Curran.
Just a question for my understanding. We're buying the computers from Hewlett-Packard and we're having Wally Computers service them. Am I correct on that, or?
No, my apologies. So we are buying the computers through Wally Computer. The financing is done through Hewlett-Packard Finance.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Kern. Any other counselors? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval of the order, Counselor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield? Counselor Whitfield? Away, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Great presentation, yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Order is approved. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's take items 16 through 27 together, unless there's any objection. These are all statements of interest for the MSBA.
I'm sorry, can you put me as yes for the last one?
Yes, for item 15?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
The orders 15 through
16 through 27.
16 through 27. I'll just read the school name. They're all statement of interest for Mary Lynch, Talmadge, Zanetti, Washington, Van Sickle, South End Middle, Liberty, Kensington, Dorman, Boland, Aliceville, and Brunton.
Well done. Yes, sir. Could put your microphone on, please, Mr. Harrigan. No, there's a little button with a face on it. You got to use that to put, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Well, I'm pleased to join you here this evening to highlight the 2025 MSBA Statement of Interest Program on behalf of Springfield Public Schools and Parks, Buildings, and Recreation Management. We're very proud of this program and the success and the partnership that the City of Springfield, the MSBA, has maintained over the past. So I'll go through briefly this year's highlighted SOI, Statement of Interest. For the core program, we'd like to submit this year for a Washington Beal core with a Washington school replacement. This would be our priority request. We also, at the request of the MSBA, need to submit a Kensington core request. Please note that as of 2024, Kensington and White were invited into schematic design by the MSBA. With regard to the accelerated repair program, windows and doors, we do not, as of this year, have any buildings that meet the MSBA's criteria for windows and door replacements. They elevated that criteria to 30 years this year, and we've been very aggressive with our submissions, so we don't have any at present that meet the criteria for that program. With regard to the accelerated repair roof program, we do have several sites that meet that program criteria, including Van Sickle, Boland, Dorman, and Brunton. And last, we have a new program this year that's come out, which is the MSBA's heat pump program. The requirements for this program are a bit more strict. However, we have identified that the Mary Lynch Elementary School, Arthur Talmadge, South End Middle, Zanetti Elementary, and the Liberty Elementary Schools meet the criteria for this heat pump program.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the council regarding these statements of interest for the school department? Councilor Delgado.
Just curious on the heat pump side. So is that just extra on top? Are you still heating those schools with what, oil or?
As I understand the program, and again, there's a lot happening at the federal level that we're all aware of, but as I understand this program, it would be to remove electrification, to remove the fossil fuels from those buildings in favor of a modern, fully electrified heat pump or geothermal type system.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. President. Jonathan presented at the Finance Committee meeting, and I just want to, compliment him and also Pete Garvey, who have taken over this project from Pat Sullivan pretty much. And just an example, apparently they said to Kathy Bono they thought there'd be 5 or 6 requests that she'd be asked to fund at some point, and they got approval of all 9 that they brought forward. So we have a team that's really quite good at this, and we went over this a little bit in more detail at the Finance Committee meeting, but I think we're in good hands with these guys running this for us.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. I just want to make sure that for Washington and Kensington, which are on my neighborhood, is that says priority set? We are asking the SBA a little statement of interest for, it says priority 7, replacement of obsolete building. So is that we are knocking it down, building a new one, right? Is that, I'm a little confused.
So priority
What it-
set,
Yeah.
priority 7 would be selected when you're asking for a replacement building, as opposed to a replacement system such as a roof or windows or doors. That priority is selected. I think the ultimate future or the fate of that structure would be determined through the process. However, at this juncture, we're acknowledging that the building, in this case, the Washington Elementary School, meets the criteria and is no longer, it has a lot to be desired when you compare it to a new building. So we're requesting that that building be replaced and co-located potentially with the Alice Beal location due to the available real estate and the success of the joint school program where we've seen the DeBerry Swan and Brightwood Lincoln schools. The MSBA really likes that program, so we'd like to capitalize on that success.
Did you say co-located, put them together, Beal and Washington?
It's very tentative at this point. It's more of a suggestion. Ultimately, the MSBA and the city council, the city at large have to, school department have to approve all that. But that is a theory that we're throwing out there, again, given the success of the conjoined sites.
Are you prepared to venture and tell us where the co-location might be?
Again, it's very, very early for that. I think the very tentative discussions that we've had have focused on the large amount of real estate around the Alice Beal location, its close proximity to the Washington School from a linear perspective. So that was one theory at this point. But the MSBA process is a very involved one, and site location is something that comes up and is focused on at several steps down the road. It's early for us to predict that, but we've had such great success joining two schools together with both of those new structures in the last few years that we feel like it's a recipe for success here as well.
No, it sounds great. I'm just sitting here a little shocked and quiet because I had heard that the intent was to get a new building. The first time that I'm hearing about co-location, which I'm not saying I'm opposed to.
I think you would have a new structure when you do that.
But specifically talk about the co-location, because, if we move that school out of my district, I don't know, like I said, it's too early, but it's the first time that I hear this, I get it. It just came to mind, if we have a new building, new structure, and we put it somewhere else, what are we going to do with that empty lot there? I would like to take the educated guess that we're going to have some community input on this, correct?
I would certainly agree and believe that would happen, absolutely, when that time comes. Again, that would be under Pete Garvey, the site selection and ultimate future of that.
Yeah. Okay, now what about the Kensington? Same scenario?
There's a lot of early predictions. There's a lot of early discussion with Kensington. We've only reached the first phase where we've been invited into schematic design. Where, as I understand it, Capital Asset is selecting designers and the partners that will hopefully design this project. I have not been made privy to a site location for the new Kensington White. I know that the intent is in those neighborhoods. But I've heard some very preliminary theories regarding the acreage requirements at each of those sites that one may be enough, but it's early without the designer really heavily engaged to determine that.
Will you be able to tell me, are we also looking to co-locate, coexist Kensington with somebody else?
That is correct. That was the SOI submitted last year, 2024, was to co-locate Kensington and White. And it was improved.
Kensington and White. My apologies, I missed your name. Your name?
Oh, my name's Jonathan Kerrigan.
Jonathan, thank you very much. I'm going to follow up on this. Like I said, it's the first time that I hear this. I was told before, you might be getting a new school, a new building. It sounded exciting, so I'm a little shocked right now to hear this. First time that I hear about this, but thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Jonathan, for the presentation. My question is around the heat pumps. So I follow clean energy quite a bit. And just wondering, are we thinking of using any solar power heat pumps?
We actually have not, this is a brand new program, so we don't know a lot about it. But I do know that all facets of electrification will be considered through this process. I think it's fair to say that the engineering team would likely look at that It would really depend on a number of factors. The heat pump program is not a whole building replacement. It's a system replacement. So I think you would not be looking at the overall structural demolition and replacement of those buildings. The reason I mention that is many of the solar challenges, they really come in a couple of varieties. They're either roof-mounted arrays or they're parking lot-mounted structures. Many of our sites, some do, some don't, but more often than our sites are very tight. So parking lot structures are difficult, pushing us to roof-mounted structures. Roof-mounted structures do require certain considerations for the structural members of those buildings. So there's a lot to consider there. But I think it's fair to say that solar panels would be looked at and considered during the engineering process for the heat pump program.
Okay, great, because all I can think about every time we talk about heat pumps or energy is Eversource, like more increases to bills. And I know that the city is on a contract, but maybe it could be reduced and some of the savings can go to property tax relief. I know all these things just circle in my head. So I hope that we are kept abreast of the process when this all rolls out. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, any other counselors? Counselor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for that presentation on those schools. So the new schools that you are building, the combined schools, I know it's probably too early, but would you be considering solar panels on top of those or even in the parking lot, right? Because a lot of times, I agree with Council Whitfield and what the discussion we had earlier about electricity and the high cost.
So the short answer is absolutely. The modern building code, the IECC, actually requires it. So any new structure that's built today, particularly a commercial school building, will be built from a structural standpoint to handle the added weight, as well as it will have internal components such as conduit and infrastructure in place that whether solar panels are added at the time of construction or brought on after the fact, the considerations will be there. Things like EV charging are all now part of the requirements for opening for these types of structures. So short answer is yes. And I think there's even discussion for existing buildings now. So.
That's good to know. I really encourage all of us building departments, I know everybody's left already, but going forward to think about solar panels for any new construction or parking lot that we do. Because I think it's the way for us to go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Govan. Counselor Delgado.
I just wanted to piggyback off the questions that Counselor Whitfield was asking in regards to the heat pumps.
Oh, sorry. I muted you by accident.
Trying to rush me?
Hit a button called exclusive. I didn't know I could do that. Sorry.
I guess my question is, as we go through this heat pump process, could you at least report back to us, once this is done, like what type of savings? Because I like the fact that we're getting off of fossil fuels, but we're going from whether it's oil or whatever, but we're also going back to electricity, to Councilor Whitfield's point. And so while we might be saving on one end, we're increasing the demand on the electrical side and what those costs are to us. And again, that does go through Eversource. So for me, just curious what we're saving in that transition, if anything, and what that, demand on the grid or whatever when we're changing all this stuff. And then to the second piece is on I forgot the word you used, the dual schools, for lack of a better term. I know we're saving on construction costs, but do we know if we're saving anything else in terms of combining the schools, other costs that we're saving?
So I'll try to remember both questions, but I'll speak to your first question. So this is as I said before, this is a brand new program. I certainly can come back before this committee and advise of my findings and my understanding of the process. I do believe that this project will transfer to from facilities to the Department of Capital Asset Construction for overall implementation. That's my understanding at present. So you might be better off with those folks. I can certainly speak to the operational end posthumously, but overall, we're very excited about this. And I would add that there's multiple different varieties of heat pumps that could be applied. So the grid is a concern, the ability of the grid, the state of the grid to handle electrification. But we've also done a lot of research and investigation into geothermal. which is a relatively, a better approach. It's a more cost-effective approach. It's a more costly approach up front. However, from an electrification standpoint, it might solve a couple of problems. And the MSBA is actually very interested in that process. So I think there may be some good opportunities there.
I like that you mentioned that piece, because I'd like for us to aggressively look at that. I don't know if it was Eversource, but they're doing a pilot program. I forget what community it is, whether it's Framingham. I know it's an apartment, it's some type of development they're doing that. But I know, because I looked at geothermal, it is really expensive up front, but I mean, in terms of the efficiencies in comparison to heat pumps, because I know heat pumps under a certain temperature, they're not as cost effective, right? So in the winter, right? So I have a heat pump. And
It's electric heat.
And it's essentially electric heat. Your bill goes, way higher when you get under 30 degrees, so.
And then to speak to the other part, I can only speak to a few pieces of it. From the building standpoint, we've not encountered anything negative with regard to the co-located sites. Certainly, they're larger sites, they're busy sites. So, there may be some added congestion to areas around there, but
Traffic.
I would argue, and perhaps the neighborhoods themselves might maintain my argument that they were congested to begin with. The added benefit to the students, to the staff, to the community, I think, of these spaces outweighs that, in my opinion. But again, I can only speak to the operational standpoint, the maintenance standpoint, that we've seen some on our level from a maintenance end. I think there is some cost savings in terms of having two sites in one. But I would, think about your heating and maintaining one gymnasium as opposed to two. It does add some scheduling challenges to the schools, but again, I've not heard complaints. I've not heard anything really negative about either of those two sites, but I'm not on the educational side. I'm on the building side, but nothing negative.
That's what I really was more on the building side of it, just the cost savings. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're large structures, they're efficient structures, they're built in the modern code, so I think right off the bat, it's a much more efficient building. It is a larger building with, again, they have gymnasiums, they have auditoriums in some instances. We didn't have those before, so those are large volume-based spaces that take energy to heat, but the building envelope is extremely tight, the systems are efficient, and our dedicated maintenance staff are working to keep them that way.
Yeah. Just hope we can continue to lower our bills on the city side.
Everything we can. We're working through Siemens and our ESCO contract to do building envelope sailing across the board as well, to keep that going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Curran?
Just want to thank you for this presentation. It's very detailed, it's very well thought out, and you're really planning for the next 30 years for our school buildings. And I just want to point out to my fellow colleagues, we hear so much about other departments in the city, but facilities management is really goes above and beyond, and they're known just not only here in the city of Springfield, but they're known statewide for their ability to work with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Recently, there was a bill put in the State House to expand the building authorities to public safety, so you can build a police station or a fire station, and that's the first time that you've heard of such talk on Beacon Hill. So we do have an opportunity here in the city to use homegrown talent and our knowledge here in the city of Springfield, and obviously your expertise is going to come involved in that, and your reputation that you've created along with Peter Garvey in Boston. So I think we have a great opportunity to have continued success in building world-class buildings. But I just want to put that on the agenda for fellow councilors, that we have the talent here to kind of come up with a proposal for a public safety building authority once that a mechanism is created in the state, and which is evidenced today with this presentation, and certainly something that I'm going to support.
Thank you, Councilor, and rest assured, we'll write that SOI for the new public safety when the time comes, gladly.
Thank you, Councilor Curran. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be just real quick, just echoing off some of my colleagues. Why can't we, you say it's under consideration, why can't we make it a requirement? Just doing the math, we know that solar, and we have to, keep up with the times. Eventually, if we put the money in and pay a little bit more, it's going to help us in the end. Why can't we aggressively even look for if we need more funding to go solar? Why can't we just always go solar? Why can't it just be a requirement? Why wouldn't we just look to do it right off the bat? I don't think we should
sit there and play around and say, hey, we consider it. I think we should align everything in a row to actually say, hey, we're going solar. What would stop us from just doing that?
I think on my end, I can speak, we write the SOIs, so we prepare the bill, based on the existing conditions, we make the recommendations on what should be replaced. I think that's a strong question for capital asset as well on the new buildings when they're constructed. We're not typically too involved in that process. We consult on a lot of things. I can tell you that on the existing buildings, the schools, the structural concerns have limited us at this point in time. Our budgets, our focus is largely maintenance, repair and maintenance, trying to maintain and keep the existing structures open and running and safe. We're not opposed to it. I can tell you that in facilities management, we have, working with Pat Sullivan, and we have aggressively gone after the things relating to solar that are within our control, and I'll cite the virtual net metering, which is really solar on other people's property, right? That positively benefits our accounts, that credits our accounts. We've gone after the maximum amount that we can possibly allow based off our total kilowatt hour consumption for the entire city. So on our end, we continue to go as hard as we can. We supported the Elias Brookings project, which is operational at this point in time. We do have solar up on that building. We're not opposed to it. I think from a funding standpoint and an operational standpoint, there's a lot of other stakeholders that need to come into a larger discussion, but we're happy to work with you and partner with you on continued expand of solar. We certainly welcome it.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for your work. You do an excellent job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Any other councilors in the statements of interest? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards. Away, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Statements of interest, items 16 through 27 are approved. Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, last item, item number 28.
Item 28 is amending Chapter 270, specifically Section 1, better known as pawnbrokers.
Okay, councilors, I am a co-sponsor of this, so I'm going to have to speak to it. I'm going to, Councilor Vice President Whitfield is remote, and under Rule 9 for chairing the meeting, if the council president and vice president are not available, then it says a temporary president pro tempore shall serve based on the length of senior of service. So that would be Councilors Santinello and Walsh, also remote. And then after that, it would be Councilors Edwards and Allen. And it says, this is a pretty detailed rule. It says after that, if they have the same amount of service, which they do, Councilors Allen and Edwards, then the member who is more senior in age will succeed. So, not to,
That's Alan.
not to expose anybody here, but I think that's Councilor Allen.
Yeah.
Okay, so Councilor Allen has to come forward here.
That's funny.
You can waive it if you'd like. You can waive it if Councilor Edwards is willing to do it and you don't want to. Okay, Councilor Edwards is going to do it. Councilor Allen, senior in age, has agreed to waive, so I'm going to step down.
Okay, Madam Clerk. Would you like to read the item?
So item 28 is an amending Chapter 270, specifically Section 1, at the pawnbrokers ordinance.
Councilor Fenton, or President Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. that rule just kept going and going and going. So it was really thought through when we put it together. So this is a administrative cleanup. I was contacted by the law department about this issue in the pawnbroker and junk dealers ordinance. In the ordinance that we adopted back in 2016, there was a provision that anticipated we would put a cap on the number of pawnbroker and junk dealer licenses that could be granted. In the final legislation that was approved, inadvertently, that was left with a blank. So if you read the law now, it says there shall not be more than blank pawnbroker and junk dealer licenses. And so clearly we have to clean that up, and that language is being removed here. We do have a moratorium in place on new ones, so the fact that that blank is there doesn't matter if we delete it. And then the other thing that we've been asked to clean up is to clarify the amount of the fee for the license, and just stipulate that that fee for the license is $200 annually, which I understand the police department has been charging for several years now. So those are the two changes. It is an ordinance change, so it'll require first step tonight and then second step at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have two quick questions to the President, if I may. So with regards to the Corey, which is always a fantastic idea, is that for everybody involved, all the employees in the operation of the pawn shop?
Mr. President, if I may, the Corey language that you're referencing says upon application of license or upon renewal, all persons involved in secondhand dealer or pawnbroker shall submit to a Corey check of their criminal history. So I would read that to mean that's the owners and the employees.
And employees?
Yeah, okay. Everyone involved, it says.
Everyone involved, okay. And then reading the last sentence, the police commissioner or his designee shall determine the suitability of the applicant or the employees of the applicant. Can you expand on that?
Through the chair, Mr. President, it's my understanding that that's currently what's happening. The police commissioner has always maintained discretion to review the application and determine whether or not the applicant is sufficiently qualified and demonstrated that they should be granted the license.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Would you happen to know what criteria they use? Is that Corey
I
check
don't,
you have,
I don't, because thankfully for the last 10 years or so, we've had a moratorium, so there's been no new licensees.
The reason I ask, Mr. Vice President, is, or Acting Vice President, is that, you know, I have heard in the past some concerns about the different issue, but with issuing guns permits, that it could be a little arbitrary. And I see what they're trying to do here. It makes a lot of sense to me, but I just want to make sure that, you know, somebody who is able to get a license for a pawn shop that is not for one way or the other, kept from getting it because of arbitrary decisions. And I'm not suggesting that's going to happen now. It's just kind of a little bit of a red flag to me, but I trust my colleague that this is good language, so unless they want to expand on that, I really have nothing else on that. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Acting Vice President.
Councilor Delgado.
I just had a couple quick questions. So what was the fee before?
$100.
So over the last 10 years, we're increasing it. Did we have any kind of calculation, inflation, or anything, or I'm just curious.
I think you're giving us too much credit. No, at some point they changed. They started charging $200, and I don't think that there was a study or anything to that effect that was done. I think it was just done that
Okay.
they think that $200 is the more appropriate fee amount.
All right, because I was just curious, you know, how we got to that amount. How does it compare to other cities and towns? And the second, do you know how many pawn shops we currently have?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. We can get that information. I do know that it has not increased since we passed the moratorium, and we have, over the course of recent history, re-upped it every 3 years because it expires. This is not a proposal to re-up the moratorium. The moratorium's still in place.
Yeah.
This is just a proposal to accurately reflect the current circumstances about what's happening today for the current licensees.
Thank you. No more questions.
Any other questions? I'm sorry. Yeah. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on passage of the first step?
On first steps, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Thank you, Counselor Edwards. Sorry about that. And yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes, the vote is sufficient. The order passed first step. Madam Clerk, I don't believe there's any other business properly brought before the committee.
There's not.
I'd like to adjourn this meeting and thank everybody for the opportunity to not be the oldest man in the room.